Good evening, everyone. Good evening. How are you all doing? Welcome to another episode of the 13%. We are your hosts, Cynthia McDonald and Arthur Ward. How you doing, Arthur?
Yes, wonderful. How are you today, Cynthia?
I am doing wonderful. I am so excited because we got a very it's a few guests. We got a few guests. We got the whole Be the Power team on tonight. So I'm like super excited. I call them the political surgeons of YouTube and live streaming. So we'll be speaking with them and having our reparations roundtable. But before we actually pull them on, let's get some housekeeping. Yes, get some housekeeping out the way. So, one thing, make sure you all like and subscribe to this channel. Share this video on your platforms. Make sure that you are hitting the bell so that you can get notification every time that YFNA news goes live, whether it be our particular show, the 13% that comes on live on Mondays, or our sibling show in Black and White that comes live on Thursdays, or any of the wonderful content that we have in between, Political Perspectives, which comes on whatever days. But if you hit the bell, you'll get notification when we come on. So yeah, that's it. And also too, if you all like the content, please think about becoming a Patreon. You can support us for as little as $1 a month. It will definitely help us grow. It will definitely help us with our channel. It will definitely help us do all the things that we can become better at doing what we yabba dabba do. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started.
Right.
So let's go ahead and bring the brothers of Be the Power on. Hello.
Peace.
Peace, family. How's everybody doing?
All right. It's so
wonderful.
Great to see you all. I think that we got like an echo going on. I'm not really sure what that is about. Like if any person actually has like a YouTube going on, make sure that you all are muting that particular thing in the background. Other than that, okay, great. We are on. Well, welcome. Be the Power. Peace. I'm so happy that you all are here.
We're honored. We're honored.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here with such great people, a great program. I try not to miss any one of y'all shows. Y'all speak to it. And it's like me being able to be a little bit back at home because y'all my Chicago family. I'm not at home now, but I always feel like I'm at home whenever y'all on. So it feels good to be a part of this show with you all.
Awesome. Well, yeah, that's because Dr. Logic is also a fellow South Sider of Chicago. Okay. South Side, Best Side.
Well,
South Side, Best Side.
I'm South, kind of over East. You know what I mean? I'm 78 and Yates.
That's right. That's right. I'm Southeast too, bro. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Southeast side, the best side. That's what's up. Okay, we're not gonna dominate. We're not gonna dominate Chicago talk tonight. I promise we are not. Well, maybe a little bit, but not too much.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
It's all good. It's all good.
So let's just go around. Let's just go around the table, and I just want you all to go ahead and just introduce yourselves. So let's go ahead and start. Brother Nyhiem, go ahead and introduce yourself too. Tell the people who you be.
Peace. What's going on, family? Brother Nyhiem. I started the show BTP with my brothers, and we came up with this concept so that we can start taking the political information and educating those of our people who really, really need to hear it. I've been doing the conscious community for maybe the past 10, 11 years. So I've made my name over in what's called the conscious network with debates, etc. I've written several books on the topic of the Moors, and I've even written a civics book. I think that was 2014 as well. So this is something that I'm passionate about. And I'm just happy to be here. I could go on, but I'll just try to give a little brief introduction.
All right. Thank you so much for that. All right. And let's go next to Dr. Logic Supreme.
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead. Introduce yourself. Tell us who you be.
You know, I'm a I like to call us we are really, what we're doing is freedom fighting, right? So what we do is trying to liberate minds through the education that we give, the political education that we give out on our show, right? So it's like being that we work through the airways, right? It's like a Air Force that we're in, like a Liberation Air Force, and we over the airways, you know what I mean? So these are my comrades and my brothers, my freedom correspondents is what I like to call them, right? So, and y'all are also our freedom correspondents, right? So that's what it's all about. But you know, we all come from backgrounds of doing this work in many different ways. You know, I've been doing political work almost all my life. I would like to say I was born into a political mindset, you know, being raised by my mother, married a man who was a Black Panther in Chicago, and you know, he raised us that way. So, you know, we come up very politically engaged and understanding a different way to look at the world. So I always been what they say radical. I used to be a radical back in my younger days. I was one of them radical brothers. And then, you know, we mature over the day. I got into politics, you know, and I ran for office. I got elected. I did a few things, you know, and we just been building. We've done so much. We just gonna keep the introductions, you know, kind of short, you know, but basically I'm a husband, a father, a reparationist, most importantly, you know, and I'm here to try to help my people, because what I want for myself, I want for y'all, you know, so we're gonna get it together.
Nice. Yes, we are all reparationists on this channel. That's what's up. All right. Next us, right. How we doing the circle thing. Next, Josh Gray L, introduce yourself. Who you be?
What's up, family? Hey, I'm just a reparationist. You know, I'm a person. I'm originally from Central Virginia. I'm up here in Washington D.C. right now. You know, ADOS, 100%, 10 toes down. You know, my mom didn't raise me in some type of, you know, church background and all that. Not knocking any of that, but it was more centered around understanding the contributions of my ancestors and you know, my people and what we did in this country. So that's just always how I looked at the world, and with an appreciation and with a sense of self-pride. And I went to Virginia State University, and you know, when I was there, I got my son with me, so I'm a family person right now. You know, I'm taking care of my son. He's eating dinner. So if you hear a few words in the background, he's trying to make a contribution too.
That's all right.
My background is Virginia State. When I was there, I got to meet some great people. A lot of people called me the truth, because it's just something that's, I think one thing that separates us, or I wouldn't say separates us, but brings us together, is that we have a unique passion that I just can't turn it off. I gotta advocate. I gotta search deeper. I gotta, you know, we have to keep fighting. And I'm not down for a life that we don't receive justice and we just act like everything's cool, you know. So that's the type of person I am, and that's why I'm in this fight as a reparationist.
Nice. Thank you so much for that. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Ali Bey, A.K.A. I'm making tuna right now.
That's right. Yeah, I'm actually in the process of making some nice tuna steaks. You know what I'm saying? So, but no, you know, my background is very similar to everybody else. I'm ADOS, born and raised in New York City. Born and raised in New York City. I actually have some church background, you know, not a lot, but some. My mother was the one responsible for you know, making us attend church when she did. At a certain age, my brother and I kind of like discovered Islam, and we took Shahada, which is you know, the part of the conversion process of becoming a Muslim and acknowledging you know, Muhammad as the prophet and so forth. And so Basically, I consider myself a concerned citizen, an ADOS concerned citizen. You know, who got into politics. I'm a musician first. A lot of people don't know that, but I'm a musician. That's a big part of my background. So if you guys got the chance to see the Chubb Rock interview, that stems from my background relationship with different people from the music industry and so forth. So basically, that's who I am. Just you know, a concerned citizen, ADOS, you know, lineage and everything else. My family's from the South, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. You know what I mean? Basically just the same lineage as everybody else here. You know.
What's up? Thank you for that. All right, so let's go ahead and just get into the conversation. So we entitled this whole thing as the Reparations Roundtable. I'm just gonna just like run this like I've done like other roundtables in the past. I'm just gonna moderate and I'm gonna let y'all go. Like this is your show, okay? So let's go ahead and just throw out this first question. What, and this is for any person, what exactly is reparations?
I mean, I'll just start with this and I'll let my brother Logic come in behind me. Reparations is basically repair. And we have been broken, right? If I could just use the plainest terms, we have been broken by the United States of America. We were never repaired. We were never restored to any condition of humanity. You know, we've spoken about how other cultures, when they released serfs received acres of land and compensation, right? The Jews, they received compensation, reparations for their pain and their suffering. The Japanese Americans, just to bring it home, received reparations for being interned during the World War. So, you know, in short and in brief, reparations just means to repair. And when you're fighting for that, you are a reparationist. So I just want to add that simple breakdown.
Yeah. And so, and to come behind that, we repair. I agree 100%. Reparations is to repair and to restore something. On top of that, I like to say that reparations is synonymous with justice, right? So whenever you are enacting or exercising reparations, it is a justice. It's an act of justice, right? So when people have done, like when you think about historical reparations, right? It's always for a people who have been served up some type of injustice, right? So it's to repair that damage that came about through being treated unfairly, unjustly, illegally, and all other kind of adjectives to describe the particular injustices, right? These injustices are the injuries. And these injuries can only be healed in certain specific ways. And they're meant to bring about closure to that particular thing. So if that injustice created an injury, reparations is what is going to doctor and heal that injury up. So a lot of people get reparations confused with things that stop the harm. Reparations is not to stop the harm. So you got all kinds of, let's say, policies that stop certain discrimination, stop certain discriminatory practices and things that are wrong. But to stop it doesn't repair the damage or compensate the loss that stemmed from the damage, right? So, so if somebody's beating me, right, I'm gonna make a play. People like to use Malcolm X's, but I'm gonna make my own play on that play. But if somebody is beating me and then they stop, right, that's a good thing. I'm glad that they stopped beating me. But now I need to be taken care of because there is pain. I have suffered. There is trauma. And I have lost probably blood. I've been broken, bones. I'm hurt. I have wounds. So I can't just lay there in a brutalized manner. So the reparations would be to come and do an assessment of the pain, the damage, the injuries, and take the most comprehensive and detailed approach on fixing me up to not only bring me back to my health prior to the beatdown and the brutalization, but to the justice. See, the justice isn't just before you to where you was before you got beat down. The act of goodwill and faith in that justice initiative would put you in a better spot than where you were before you got brutalized. So reparations is something that is to bring about justice. And that's how I look at it and explain it.
Nice. Brother Josh, Brother Ali, you all want to go ahead and add a little something to that, to the whole explanation?
Yeah, I will say that, you know, for the context of what we're talking about acknowledgement, redress, and closure. So, you know, we look at the Japanese American model, and there was an acknowledgement. It got redress, and I don't know about closure, but they seem to not been raising the issue again. When it comes to our reparations or our justice claim, we are looking for acknowledgement from the federal government, who was the culprit, the chief culprit in that scenario. We want them to acknowledge that what happened. We want a detailed account. We want an apology. We want all these type of things. We want redress. We want, we're demanding that our grievances get addressed via compensation, direct payments made to individuals as a part of a comprehensive reparations program. And we want closure. We want it to be tracked and managed to where the chief objectives of the reparations program are manifested, and we've seen them through. So I'm sure we're going to go into detail on this, but the main thing that we want to get across with the reparations as far as redress is closing the racial wealth gap, because that is the most consequential element of the damage that was received that we can actually track and have a metric on today. So all this other kind of stuff, when we talk about, you know, pain and suffering and hurt, when we want to see justice, we want the wealth gap, which is more like a gulf or a chasm between black wealth and white wealth. We want that addressed and closed, and that's how I say once we see that is addressed and that's brought to the closure standpoint, and we have all the other grievances that we can say that we met the objectives and we have closure. That's how I say that you have an effective reparations program.
Nice. Brother Ali.
Hey, I had you guys on mute. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, I agree with everybody, with what everybody has said already. And so reparations is definitely about justice for me. You know, at the core, it's about justice and repair. So I think at this point in time, what, like Josh said, we need to really be focused on is closing the racial wealth gap. And the other thing is too, making reparations, because I know one of the things that we talk about often is creating reparations in order to push a proper reparations bill. So that means not only people in our family, our friends, people in our community, but we got to somehow reform the Congress as well, so that we can get a Congress behind a reparations bill. So, you know, basically it's repair, like everything that everyone has already said, and we need action behind it. So we got to really build a coalition and support. You know?
Very good. Thank you for that. So I guess that leads me to my next question, because Josh, you touched on it, and Ali, you kind of piggyback on it. What exactly is the racial wealth gap? Arthur, I want you, since you didn't chime in, could you go ahead and chime in on that one first, and then we're going to go around.
Well, it's I would say that it's not just incidental. It is the result of a continuum of injury, both large and small, done over 3, maybe 4 centuries. Okay, and it's the result of the constant modification of injury, enslavement, discrimination, being locked out of certain benefits as a taxpayer, being locked out of certain privileges as a citizen, and then you come to this, okay? And one of the things that I wanted to say while the Be the Power guys were talking was that I think that one of the fears that white people and the government are looking at is that this will be the most comprehensive reparations bill in history. Okay, because if you look at the history of reparations, all the things that other reparations programs dealt with were relatively short occurrences. I mean, you know, the Japanese were there for 4 years. Okay, the Holocaust lasted for about 11 years. Okay, that's, you know, relatively short, and that was not long enough to change people's mindsets, to change their genetics, to change their cultural connections as far as where they came from. It's like we're a totally different case, which requires more comprehensive reparation than anybody in history. So, you know, that's how I look at it.
Facts.
Go ahead, Brother Logic. What you gonna say about that?
Oh, no. I was saying the brother said what he said was right and exact, 100%. That was facts. You know, I'm just sitting here thinking about it. And this conversation is the conversation in this day and time. If you are connected to this reparations claim, when we're talking about politics, right? We got a show called Be the Power, right? Where our aim and objective is to literally try to show and teach and lead people to becoming the power, right? Because our politics have failed in many ways because we have invested too much trust, too much expectation and things of that nature into other people who have the power, instead of putting that time and energy and focus on becoming that power ourselves. Well, what are you talking about, Logic? I'm talking about, instead of wrestling with legislators, we need to be running against legislators. Instead of demanding legislators do for us, we need to be voting legislators and replacing legislators out of office. Why am I focusing on legislators? Because the legislators are the ones that have the power of the pen, and they're the ones who are influencing and shaping the climate of society that we live in, whether it's your state general assembly or the U.S. Congress. So if you look at the history of ADOSness, when we came out of Reconstruction, what did we do? First thing you did, you've seen, and if you read From Here to Equality, they talk about the mystic years, right? You saw an uprise. You saw an uprise of freedmen and Native Black Americans becoming statesmen all over the place, from Hiram Revels in Louisiana, Robert Smalls in South Carolina, and also Prince Rivers in South Carolina. And you had this all over. So just like you had those freedmen who were statesmen in that day, you had a man who was a powerful politician himself, Frederick Douglass, and he said a lot of powerful things, and he was an abolitionist. So on Be the Power, just like Frederick Douglass was an abolitionist in his day, we are reparationists in our day. And what we are talking about is the things necessary. We cannot depend on others to invest in our hope, in our agenda. We have to create it at home. So
you know what?
About.
You know what, though? I will say this. I think that one of the reasons why you had so many statesmen right after slavery is because Black people at that time saw right up close the connection between their condition and politics. Okay. They were right there on the plantation. They were overhearing these conversations. They were actually the servants of the very people that shaped and made legislation. Okay. Yes. So they were right there. And as a matter of fact, we were heavily involved with politics right up until the Great Society programs. And I would say that was be at the point at which we started falling asleep. Then we had these other inputs from people like nationalists saying, well, your vote don't count. And in some cases, religion. You know, we have a large segment of our people that are like Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't vote. Okay. Yeah. So we have all of these inputs leaving us in the hands of our legislators who are, because we have not been paying attention and holding their feet to the fire, they've been paying attention to their donors. And I think that's where we kind of came off the rails.
As well as input from people like Booker T. Washington.
Sure.
You know, he was very, very influential in undermining the political activity of Black Americans after Reconstruction. You know, I know you know about the speech he made in Atlanta, where he basically told the white audience that Black people were wrong for seeking political power in the first place. We should really be trying to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and do physical labor. You know what I'm saying? Now, whether he was doing that for the purpose of trying to just get money out of them to build his Tuskegee Institute and whatever else he was trying to do, I don't know. But at the end of the day, I believe, like Du Bois and others who didn't agree with him, I believe that worked to undermine the Black political power that people were trying to build.
Well, you know what? I had to. I'm actually planning on writing a blog post about Booker T. Washington and how slick he was. Yes, he was trying to get money for his institute, but at the same time, we do have to also consider the conditions that he was living in at the time, and how he was trying to use his political power to gain leverage for us in different areas where he could. Matter of fact, the speech was made because of the fact that white people were raising up and in some cases threatening violence if, Black people decided to become more political. So I am going to speak on that particular point that you raised in that blog posting.
I got to do this real quick because Jeremy D said bring in Abba. So Abba, talk.
That's funny. The wealth gap is basically wealth. It's wealth inequality, right? It's basically an unequal distribution of assets. We were locked out of this country's economy. I just seen a recent article. I don't know if it goes back even 2 years, that says that Blacks, even with good to perfect credit scores, still have a hard time getting loans from whites with equal credit scores or trends, right? So when we're dealing with wealth, we're dealing with automobiles, cars, homes, et cetera, et cetera. And these are things of value. So if you take a car, for instance, and this was one of the things that we broke down on the Be the Power show when we was reading Jared Ball's piece, whom you had interviewed on your show, and he was talking about how Black wealth is calculated, and they take into consideration. So let's just say you put $2,000 down on a car, and now you're paying off that car for the next 72 months. What these slick analysts do is they take the whole value of that car and add it into what could be your assets. This is why we speak about, when we're speaking about, and you hear Antonio Moore say this all the time, the middle Black family being worth $1,700 without depreciating assets, right? So if you take away these things that depreciate, then we really have absolutely no wealth. So I wanted to get back to that question. And another person, as my brother Logic was speaking, and he brought up Prince Rivers, was Prince Hall, a Mason way back in the day. I want to say the 1780s. Prince Hall was a very influential person in so far as helping to draft legislation and doing certain things to help basically bring our people into the light, if I could use a Masonic term. He's somebody that I think that doesn't get enough credit in that regard and trying to help our people move forward. So I definitely wanted to touch on that as well. Because when he brought up, the politicians, and he said Prince Rivers, I was like, man, Prince Hall, that was a bad man too. That instantly popped in my mind. So, and I want to give a shout out to all the Prince Hall Masons out there. Straight up.
Shout out to Prince Hall. Go ahead, Brother John.
The Prince Hall Masons were very Right, they were very active politically during the 60s. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 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 Brother Josh, he was going to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to share. I wanted to pull a graphic up real quick. That's cool.
Okay.
Let me know when you share it so I can start sharing.
Okay.
What y'all may not know about our brother Josh is he's like my nickname for him in our group chat is Data. This dude is like a computer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
So I made this little chart back in the day. As soon as I came across this information, because I was like, I need something to just show how, like, a visualization so people can see, because we see the bar chart, and the bar chart is one thing, but when I made this little chart, it just looked like this whole 100 trillion, it just looked like Pac-Man just eating this little bit of wealth up. And to think that, like, we come from chattel slavery, which built all of this. They gave the launching pad, which created all of this. And then us not getting reparations exacerbated it. And so when you see like somebody like Obama do policies like quantitative easing coming off of 2008 when the housing market crashed and the stock market crashed, and the majority of our wealth was tied up into housing assets, our home, not even like a bunch of properties as a real estate mogul. We're talking about just our home. And then our homes are historically in segregated areas where I want to say like we only get like the 25% of the appreciation rate as homes in the average white neighborhood. Don't quote me on that statistic. You can look it up. But factoring all of that, you can see the acceleration of white wealth after the Obama stimulus to get to where we have this chasm. I'm gonna bring up one other piece here. Where did I have it? I'm gonna bring up another piece here, right here. I'm gonna read something from Darity, because this is from this Roosevelt Institute piece. And we'll, a lot of times when we want to, it was one more thing I need to go back to make this make more sense. This right. Let me just go back a little bit. Photos. All right, it's not coming up. I don't want to waste y'all time on that, but let me just pull this up here. What I was just trying to show was the median. Oh, I know where it is. Hold on. I know where it is. Like I said, my son is right here. I see. We gotta turn that down. But let me come back to me. Just give me just a second, y'all. I'm multitasking a lot of things. I hate to do that to y'all on the show, but let me come back to you.
It's okay. Yeah. This is what we got, raising the children while we're trying to share data. It's all good. Oh, it's all good.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Logic. Go ahead.
No, that when we're dealing with that wealth data, that wealth gap, right? And we talk a lot of people. We've been given the information and the data has been being framed very well, has been being pushed out very well, and that's one of the things that have really, made me proud in this moment. That the specificity and framing of the data, because the empirical evidence have really been missing from a lot of the. I ain't gonna not historical, because that makes it seem like outdated, but in a lot of claims and a lot of the arguments that have been made in recent years have been devoid of empirical evidence. It's just been a lot of anecdotal stuff, and the anecdotal stuff is good, but that imperial imperial data that comes in and just it roots it in such a way, it makes it so you can't really deny it that way. You can deny a story, but you can't deny this data and these statistics. You can't really refute them. And then they ask questions. Well, before we go into the things that they try to do to say what the lies in many cases and inventions of lies that they use to try to explain it, we have to. I like to go to the root of things, and before you understand something, you have to go to its roots and to its origin. Right. They say, well, how did the wealth gap get created? So in order to understand it, you have to know when it started, right? So you have to know that since we're talking about the American descendants of slavery, right, and our redress and justice claim is what it is. That's its DNA for our people. So once we understand, I said, how did these people get this way? How did this wealth gap? Was it just, some people want to say it was just our lack of doing things and we didn't know what to do and all of this stuff, but they don't understand that America never had a homeless issue until emancipation. America never had a homeless issue. I'm talking about as a government, like with the government, you know, the government tracks homeless situation, poverty, they do the statistics on it. These were not issues before emancipation, and they released 4 million people into poverty and into homelessness. And you can read stories. There's all kind of articles written. There's a good book that we refer to people called The Bloody Shirt, and there's other books in there that talk about. There was this reporter who traveled they traveled the South after the Civil War, the 11 Confederate states, and he was a journalist. There you go. And he was writing back and he said all throughout the South there was just scores of people just on the road, homeless and barefoot and just didn't have nothing. America created the homeless situation. They could have fixed it. So then we say at the same time, right, we're going to fast forward a little bit. You had General Sherman, right? And he had his special field order 15, where he was going to take the Sea Islands in South Carolina and some of the property along the coast of Florida and Georgia, right? And he came out with the 40 acres and a mule, basically breaking down to about families of 4, 10 acres a person, right? And a work beast, right? A work animal, right? So that manifested itself. About 100 some odd thousands of acres of land was actually appropriated and enacted. But then you had this monster named Andrew Johnson, who became president, right? And then he took that land away from the people. And at the same time, the land was being, and it was done by force in many cases. There's an island in the Savannah area where Andrew Johnson actually put together a special military unit to go and take the land that had been legally given to these people. I think it was Turtle Island was the name of the island, right? So understand that this is the government that's doing this, going back and ripping the land that was given to us, right? Rightly so, right from out of our possession and forcing us into homelessness. And but okay, that explains y'all poverty situation. So how did the gap grow, right? So at the same time, they were stealing and taking land from us and forcing us into poverty. They was giving millions of acres of land away through homestead to white families. They gave away hundreds of thousands of acres to individuals. And some people were excluded out of it for their participation in the Confederate demonstration. But the trick is many of them were related to people who were in the Union who were able to qualify for the program. So they ended up being able to benefit from homestead, even though they were part of the rebellion. So the exacerbation of the gap grew in many ways, and it was all the ways that it was able to grow in significant ways was due to government aid and support. So the government created the gap, and that's and it's been extending and spreading and metastasizing every day until now.
You know, I was going to tell a quick story, and then I'll have Josh go back and share his screen. So one person told me when we were actually talking about the Homestead Act that they had a dentist that was in Chicago, East Side, right off of Indianapolis Boulevard. And the dentist told the patient that he came from 3 generations of dentists in his family. But the funny thing about it is that the way that they were able to, you know, continue on this whole line of dentists is they had one relative who went west to claim portions of that Homestead Act money, or, you know, to claim land, was also able to get additional money to mechanize their land and got massive wealth for it, to the point where they were able to support their family and actually send more generations of their family to school and set them up for life. And I mean, like, if you're thinking like something recently as like this particular person that happens to be, you know, a dentist, came from a father who was a dentist, their grandfather was a dentist, and they were all able to go to school because of one relative.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, so
And
this
that
whole,
shows you.
yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that just shows you, like, when you said that, I thought about my family, right? I thought about, because you know, you look at your family, and you look at, like, you don't really realize how much something as simple as your great grandparents or your great grandfather or your grandfather or something having land or having assets, and how that can just change like several people down the line through generations. And I look at it in my family, like my great grandfather on my mom's side, he owned land, and come to find out, part of that was land that was obtained via after slavery, when the Confederates got their land stripped. I believe one of my great grandmother was his wife was a descendant of a large slave owner, and she got some of that, a little piece of that property. And just having that little piece of that property allowed him to develop a large tobacco farm, which allowed his children to each have their own plot of land where they grew their tobacco, and they were able to save that money, either go to college, they bought cars, they were able to do things that helped them progress, and all of them, ended up doing well. And their kids, it had effect on their kids.
They were able to be American.
Say again?
That's really it. They were able to be American.
Enabled them to be American.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm going to share my screen. The reason why I shared that, if you want to pull that other chart back up, Cynthia, if you can. Yeah, the reason why I wanted to share that other Pac-Man looking chart, I call that the Pac-Man chart, is because, you have to bring context to where, like, you have to take America back to where it was just basically ADOS, or, the freedmen and so-called white Americans, and that's going to include the people who were coming from the revolutionary, the American Revolution, white American population, and also the immigrants that came after, including the Irish, Italians, etc. But I look at the largest ethnic population of whites today in America is German Americans, and then the second largest ethnic population in America is us. I just wanted to throw that in there. But if you look at today's America is much different. Because now let's look at this. This is median value of household wealth. This is coming from a study from the Samuel Du Bois Cook Center, which is Dr. Sandy Darity's program down at Duke University in the New School. Also, they did this study through several cities in the United States. To me, this should be an ongoing thing. This should be funded to be expanded to way more cities, and it should be done on a constant basis. But I wanted to bring that chart up just because I wanted to show something. I wanted to show, when you look at the different cities, you see U.S. Black descendant. We don't crack 5 figures in a single city. We're all in almost all of these. We're at the bottom or real close to the bottom. And you can look at the different other groups that came after the Immigration Act that just far surpassed us, like as far as median family wealth. So, and I'm gonna bring this other piece up right here, and I just want to read quickly from the Roosevelt. Can y'all see this right here? Let me stop the share, and I'm gonna share this again. I think I had to do it separately, but I'm gonna read this from Dr. Darity. Hello, Chrome tab. It's right here. All right. So when we're talking about reparations, we're talking about closing the racial wealth gap, because there's that chasm of wealth that was created via what logic so elegantly laid out, what was stolen and what was denied from us, going all the way through the New Deal, going all the way through no GI Bill, no access to the homes and all this kind of stuff. And then you see a chasm that we have today, where we talk about the wealth gap needs to be closed at the median and not the mean. So let me break that down because a lot of people don't understand. So I'm gonna read from Darity. It says, ultimately, a well-designed reparations program could have a powerful impact on producing greater wealth equality among Black Americans. Consider the median to mean ratio. Suppose all Black households receiving an additional $800,000 to make up for the mean deficit. As of 2016, the Black median to mean ratio was 17,600 to 138,000. In other words, it's saying the average, the median Black household nationwide, this is including depreciating assets. Okay, we normally talk about it now, is 17,000, and that's the median. The median is, for those who don't know, the median is the number that's in the middle. The mean is the average. I mean, you add up everybody, including people that's negative net worth and people that's all the way at the top, and you get the number that's average. So the average or the mean is 138,000, or approximately 13%. Okay, it says if the Black mean rises to the same level as the white mean through a provision of an additional 800,000 to each Black household, the intra-group Black median to mean ratio would change dramatically to 817,600 to 938,000, or approximately 87%. So basically what they're saying is, look, don't talk about you need to close the wealth gap at the mean, where you take this 17,000 and you bring it up, I mean, at the median, excuse me, you take this 17,000 and you bring it up to the white median, which is like 170 something thousand. No, we want to close at the white mean. Don't think you're going to take out all the Jeff Bezos of the world and the Steve Jobs and but Zuckerberg and all these people just because white wealth they like even compared to their wealth. No, because the fact is there are no Black ADOS Zuckerbergs. There are no Black ADOS Bill Gates. There are no Black, none of those. We're not nowhere close to anywhere at the top of those. Like we barely have 6 billionaires. So
well, even there we're at the bottom.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Don't think we don't need to include them. No, you got to include them. That's why we need. And so people are mad right now. Some people mad because they don't believe in justice, and they think this 817 being higher than the white the median is something wrong with it. No. I just showed you the chart where it said the Color of Wealth report. Indian Americans wealth is like 500,000, and Asian, I mean, some Chinese is high, and all these other groups. So what's wrong with the group that built the country, that been here foundational, not being made whole? This is so I just wanted to share that with y'all. Let me know what y'all think about that.
I found that number on your chart with the Cherokee Indians to be real interesting. Wow. The average was pretty high there. So what is 75,000 you got there?
Yeah, especially when you think about, them being talked about being included in our reparations claim.
And they used to own us. That's one of the tribes used to own us.
Yeah. I think I shared like on the last show that we did when we were talking about the DNC platform. And one of the things that was very interesting is that for the most part, when they were talking about, Black, African American, etc., and they had a tendency to name us and then go Black Americans, Latinos, Native Americans, Asian Americans. And then the next point would be Black Americans, Latinos, Asian American, Native Americans, etc., etc. The only time that they actually mentioned us one time, I want to say like the first time that they did it for once, is when they were talking about having the talk with your children when you are encountering police so that you don't get shot.
Right. That's about it.
But it was very interesting to see how many times Native Americans were mentioned. Plus, before they even got to their preamble, they did a whole about for the what was it called then?
About 30.
I want to say like the land mention of the land memorial that they were actually putting into the DNC platform before they even got to their preamble.
The land statement. Statement. Right.
And one of the things that author observed is that every nation that was mentioned in that whole land statement, they all own casinos. All of them. And
every one of them had casinos.
Yeah, and matter of fact, I was looking up some information concerning, like, you know, what tribe people get, and there was even like I don't know if, like, I think that either you all brought it up or Yvette brought it up, where they were that some tribes actually was systematically cutting people out of being like in the tribe, to keep them from actually being able to get profits from like some of the casino money that they were getting. I think that the Cherokees did it. I think the Choctaw did it. I think the Yutan did it. And matter of fact, there was people who would say, like, you know, my family, my relatives, we were brought up in this particular nation, and they just completely cut us out so they don't have to give us the money. In some cases, in the Cherokee Nation, they were saying that each tribe member, due to casino money, was getting $30,000 a month.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, they were cutting out. They were cutting out two types of people. They were, first of all, they're cutting out tribal members that have some African genetics, and the other type of people were people that were fully Indian, but they were politically problematic. So they just decided to cut those out and step off. So that's how that went.
Yeah, it was interesting. Moving right along. Moving right along. So like, I think that we kind of like this is a great segue to what are some of the oppositions that, you know, have been brought up concerning paying reparations.
Well, I think a lot of the opposition comes in the imaginary, the imagination that people think that they could do reparations themselves. Basically, I've seen a lot of things say, you know what, if we could just focus on the black, if we could harness the black buying power, we could do and do that. Combined with this, because I think this, what I'm about to say, kind of births that idea and that thought, the whole defeated mindset that they ain't gonna never give us no reparations, we ain't gonna never get. So that self-deprecating mentality is what fuels the imagined foolishness, right? So these fool errands that they come up with comes out of that defeated mentality. But they don't understand that in 1855, no one alive, except for those, you know, who had extreme courage and vision, thought that 10 years later, emancipation was going to happen. They didn't know that. No, you talk to the average person in the South, or anywhere for that matter. You talk to the average slaveholder and tell them 10 years from now, there ain't going to be no slaves in the South. And no one would believe it. No one thought that there was going to be a 13th Amendment that abolished slavery. No, you couldn't have convinced anyone 10 years from 1865 that it was going to happen. You couldn't convince somebody in 1954 that in 1964 and in that you know, civil rights was going to be a thing. These people thought they were impossible things. But like me and the brothers have said before, our entire history as Native Black Americans and American descendants of slavery has been freedom fighting. We have been, they used to say we made something out of nothing. Like, that's what we are, a miracle people. We have more heroes in our ethnic history than anybody in the history of the world. And you have to understand that. But I wanted to just, before I swing the mic, I wanted you to pull that graph up just so that people who talk about spending power, some of y'all just don't know no better, right? And I just want to pull this up so you never have to look foolish again saying this, because sometimes you just don't know that you look foolish when you say this. But I mean, I don't know how good you can see this, because I don't know if I can blow it up, but I'm gonna read the information on here for you. Now, what it says is this is buying power in the United States by race and ethnicity, right? And on the chart, we got Black, white, Asian, the Latinx, I mean Latinos and Hispanics, and you have American Indians as well, right? So just look at the difference. So we have to understand, people who talk about buying power, they don't frame it right. They just say, you know, black buying power, we have $1.4 trillion in buying power. But unless you weigh that, see, everything is relative. And unless you measure that to other groups' buying power, you won't know how powerful that buying power is. So, Black folks, 13.4% of the population. The shares of buying power that we have, all these reports were based in 2019 data, right? From the consumer health statistics, right? So it says 8.9% of the buying sharing power, the shares of buying power in America, according to 2019, was 8.9%. We make up 13.4% of the population, but we only have 8.9% of the buying power. And that's equal to roughly 1.4 trillion. Now let's look at white folks, right? They make up 76.2% of the population, right? You would say they're gonna have more money because they're more people. But look, let's look at it right now. Look at their share of the power of the buying power in the country. Their population is 76.2, but their share of buying power is 81.7%, well over their share of the population, right? And that's results to 13.2 trillion, right?
With Dr. Logic, let me tell you this. Black people have to start growing the cojones to cut off stupid conversations. Okay? All right?
Yeah.
What, it's like, look at them stupid. I mean, what do you mean buying power? Okay?
Right.
If you have an accident in your car, does the insurance company ask you about your buying power before they pay the settlement?
Yeah, excellent point.
About?
Excellent point.
That's just like white people. They talk when I talk because I talk to everybody about. I go to a restaurant. I don't even let the waitress pour my coffee unless she understands about reparations. That's where I'm at. Okay.
Wow.
The white people ask me, where will the money come from? I said, I don't know. I'm a nigga. Where stuff comes from is not my concern. That's the job of the United States government to figure out. They got people for that. If you want to ask something, ask where 6,000 lynchings came from. Ask where redlining came from. Ask where being locked out of Social Security came from. Ask where the ghetto came from. Ask where George Floyd came from. Now ask that. And where's did anybody find the mule that we supposed to get? What about the land? Did you ask that? Now, if you ask that and if you're getting the answers, get back to me. But don't ask me about where the money's coming from. Just ask me about how do you want to get your reparations? Do you want to direct deposit it? Do you want them to mail you a check? Do you want a woman with whatever to come by your house with a basket full of cash? How do you want to do this? That's all I want to know.
That's hilarious. You know what's crazy too about the buying power thing, man, is with the buying power stuff, they add in our debt. So when they're calculating this buying power, they're talking about all of the credit card debt and everything else that that our people are in. That's not power, man. That's debt. I don't understand what people be talking about.
That's proof that we need reparations because we're using so many credit cards. I mean, if you want to talk about it from that angle.
Yeah.
But don't come to me with stupid conversations, please.
Don't do it. Arthur get mad at you, throw his wine in your face. He's gonna waste that wine, and he gonna be like, "Oh my goodness, I got red wine all over me! Oh my god!" Come with that stupidness, I mean, but even when we talked to Dr. Jared Ball about this whole thing about where this number came from, then we was talking about like a lot of it came from Nielsen surveys. To do and I believe that even like the Labor Board of Statistics even showed this too, where people were just reporting on the stuff that they buy. Like I spend so much money on groceries. I spend so much money on my car note. I spend so much money on rent. I spend so much money on on basically living expenses that you need every day, right?
Right.
And then what they ended up doing was taking that number and say, okay, so Black people as a whole per year spend about $1.4 trillion in this particular area right here because it was reported to us.
Well,
you know,
right.
Cynthia, Nielsen has been giving companies false numbers ever since they've been in existence. Okay?
Yeah,
so
it's
why
all
should this
about
be
marketing.
any different? Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
and with this,
all about marketing.
You know, I don't even. Ooh, these people coming up. What buying power?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? People
honey, watch your blood pressure. Okay, just
I mean,
and let me say this. Just the fact that you have a car note tells you that there's a problem.
Right.
That's not power. The car note means you got a debt.
Right.
That's right. I just paid mine off. Don't play. I'm sorry, you triggered me. I guess I just got triggered. But go ahead.
Something real quick, and because we touched on this on the show on one of our broadcasts, and I was on Sinetta TV, and I had a debate with brother Reggie. Let me know when y'all got that pulled up. I wanna break something down just real quick. I can't see it from my screen. Is it up? Okay. Let me bring this up. All right. So this is the aggregate income. This is from censusreporter.org. This is from 2018. The aggregate income in the past 12 months in 2018, inflation adjusted dollars for the population 15 years and over, Black or African American alone. Now, just that title right there is telling, right? We can dissect that because you have to ask yourself, how much money does a 15-year-old have, right? And if they're going by income, then you still have to ask the question, how many 15-year-olds, Blacks, have jobs, right? That's a whole nother question that needs to be asked. So that title is interesting in and of itself. But you'll see the number here, underlined. The aggregate income in the past 12 months. So it's roughly $970 billion. Now that and it has a plus 5 million. I guess we could round that off, $5.8 million. I forget how to say that part, so let me try to move on. So 900.
Do you think? It's all good, fam. $970 billion. Now, this is far less than the 1.2 trillion or 2 trillion or 3 trillion number that we hear. But even if that number was real, it's still insignificant when you simply use division. If you take our population and you divide the 45 million Black people, and this is not even adults, this is just everybody, right? So if you divide that number, it's 21,000, because I'm dealing in the aggregate. So I came up with roughly $22,000 per person, and this was not enough for us to live on. And I just wanted to share that just to show that even with everybody added in, being our billionaires and millionaires, et cetera, the top 10% of our people who hold 75% of our wealth, that we still don't have enough, that buying power is not buying power. It is an aggregate of income. And a lot of that income goes to paying our bills and purchasing the necessities, et cetera, that we need. So, I just wanted to speak to that real quick.
Yeah, a lot of it is survival money. Just getting by money.
Yeah,
right. And I just got triggered again when you said just getting by. I'm thinking about sleep.
No, and that's exactly right. And most and with most Black people, this money is not coming from income producing assets that produce without them. Most of the time it's money coming directly off of their backs. They're bouncing the ball or acting or commentating or doing something that they have to stay well in order to keep doing. You know what I mean? And that's a big problem too. And it's also because of that historic the historic injustices that we've had, being locked out of capital, and then when we did big businesses, they were getting burned down, that we do not have that kind of safety net, even if we're billionaires.
Mm-hmm. And one of the important things about the black buying power and the way Brother Nyhiem was explaining how it's being determined based on spending and whatnot. Most of what they're spending can't be considered buying power or power because it's the result of debt that they have taken on. So that's not spending. You're spending someone else's money. So that's really your spending power. You have borrowed someone else's spending power.
Right.
So you have to understand that a lot of that is, and the vast majority of it is debt.
Right. A better number would be for them to calculate how much credit is available to black people. That would be a better number than buying power.
Or they could just push for reparations and forget all the foolishness. I don't understand why we're even because there's no real, because we talk about, now because they're focused on liquid, right? And that liquid focus is a real problem, and it will keep you, if you drown yourself in liquid, it will keep you from understanding the security that comes with wealth. You don't have real economic security if you're a liquid-based person. If all your finances is liquid and like there's no safety there, there's no security there, right? There's no leverageable assets, right? You have to have leverageable wealth that you can use in a shortage of liquid, right? So that's how the other groups are able to do things that we can't do in the absence of their own liquid ability. So even if they don't have the liquid money and they look like poor white folks, they still possess more ownership in things that we do that they can use to leverage to get the results.
That's right.
Well, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about closing a wealth gap. We're talking about our ability to have leverageable assets that we can use, because that's what it's really about.
So let's do this a bit. So I brought this up like when we were guys going on backstage, and this leads to my next question. When you hear, well, you already got your reparations. Don't we have affirmative action? Don't we have welfare? Don't we have all social service programs? We got food stamps for you. You know what I'm saying? You got your reparations, right?
Wrong. that's just white folks being just racist. That's all.
Right. You know what's interesting about a lot of those arguments? What I've found just from being on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, a lot of those arguments, believe it or not, are actually coming from the immigrant population. I don't know why.
Right.
Like, you don't see that as much coming from what we could call maybe foundational European Americans. You see that more coming from the immigrant group. Most of the pushback that I've experienced, whether it was from white immigrants or black immigrants, it was most of the time, 90% of the time, it's coming from the immigrant class in this country.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I believe that. The very first time a white person told me to go back to Africa was a white person with a heavy Eastern European accent.
Yeah.
The thing that we have to understand is that most of the kind of social programs, social welfare programs, really started in the 1930s, and they, for the large part, excluded black folks. So they weren't designed for us in the first place. So you can't bring that up in a reparations conversation. And if someone brings that up in a reparations conversation, they really need to be educated in their own pushback.
That's right.
To me, how does that repair the damage that was caused by whatever you're saying this repaired? So these social welfare programs or whatnot that they like to call welfare, because all government money is welfare. But when rich folks ask for money, they call it subsidies. When poor folks ask for money, they call it welfare. But it's all welfare. It's money from the government. So, but I would force them to ask and say, well, if you think that is reparations, please tell me what that repaired. Please tell me what that fixed and what that healed, and was it specifically to the injured party? So if you want to talk about a program that anyone could that has these real loose criteria to fit, all you gotta do is be kind of like poor to get it. That can't be reparations for me. That's just a policy that's targeting poverty. So that cannot in any way be reparations. And then when we talk about affirmative action, when you understand how that program was never even meant to be reparations, and it was one of those kind of policies targeted to kind of stop discriminatory hiring practices, it only stopped the action. It didn't repair all of the damage for the decades and centuries of not even be able to work, right? And then you understand that the number one beneficiary of the affirmative action program has been white women. How can you call it a reparations program for Black folks?
Right.
Well, you know what, Logic? I cynically believe that the kind of people that bring up those kinds of arguments know very well the problem and the rightness of reparations. I think when people talk like that, what you're really seeing is racial animus.
That's exactly what it is. It's racist.
Exactly most definitely.
But you have to be able to have this kind of because that's what they expect us to do, right? And Dr. Louis Fuller, right? I read and study a lot of his work, man. He's a great mind. He really equips you on how to handle it because they want to get you, because they know what they're saying is crazy. And they want you to get mad and slap them. That's what they want to do. You know what I mean? Because they know what they're saying is disrespectful. Right. That's the type of people we're dealing with. So we have to. I've always believed we've proven to be the superior intellectuals, and we have been able to outthink our enemies in a lot of different ways. So we have to get them to expose their own foolishness and kind of like, defeat their own argument.
Indeed. Brother Nyhiem, you wanted to bring something to the table. I
just want to read from Dr. Darity's From Here to Equality on page 309, because he gives us in what we call the reparations Quran. At least that's my personal term for it. He gives us a response to that question, right? And it reads, Blacks already have received reparations in the form of an abundance of welfare monies and funds from other social programs. So this is usually the pushback, which is the question that you asked. And Dr. Darity and Kirsten Mullins, a shout out to both of those great minds. Go on to say, ironically, when those social programs were first introduced in the 1930s, they were structured to exclude Blacks from their benefits. Blacks did not get full access to the nation's social safety net until 1965, 3 decades later. Moreover, so I'll just pause right there. If you look at those social programs, what I call European American or white Americans still had a 30-year head start in those.
Right.
So they had a chance to take that, and if they were poor, say, okay, well, we're going to build from here and wean ourselves off of these social programs and plug into the wealth that our race is basically producing all around us. Right? It continues. Moreover, America's social programs were never Black-specific initiatives. In fact, excluding benefits from agricultural and domestic household workers, when the majority of Blacks were employed in those occupations, was one of the conditions congressmen from the southern states exacted in exchange for their support. Preventing these workers from educational opportunities and higher paying jobs protected the southern quote-unquote way of life. It has also never been true that the majority of recipients of federal benefits are Black. Of course, I could keep going on. I have several portions highlighted from that section. So we have pushbacks now for those of you listening to the 13%. For the first time, maybe, or if you're not familiar with what I'm reading from, it's a book, From Here to Equality. As a matter of fact, let me get the whole title, From Here to Equality, Reparations for Black Americans in the 21st Century. by William A. Darity Jr. and A. Kirsten Muller. Oh, so they got the books up.
He wasn't looking.
Hard copies were sold out. I got mine on. I purchased one on Audible. So,
yo, you know what? Cynthia just put up a comment that said nobody wants to be the bottom caste, right? So everybody's comfortable with us being that bottom caste, even other Black people. It's interesting because that made me think about a debate that Josh and I was having with someone from the Caribbean. I believe he might have been Jamaican on Facebook, where he basically came out and said, if y'all move out of that position, then that makes us the bottom. Like we don't want to be the bottom. Like he actually said that stuff on the thread, man. This is crazy.
Right.
It's
I would have
crazy,
told him, you don't have to be there. You can always move back to Jamaica.
Yeah.
I feel like I gotta jump in only because half my family from Jamaica.
Sorry. Oh, my bad.
I feel no bad, because I know that ain't nobody that's here going back to Jamaica no time soon, because they came here to get a better life. And they know for damn sure that if they go back, matter of fact, you know what, remind me a little story and then I'm gonna move on. So in the 90s, we went to go visit family. And I didn't know none of them people, and they all knew who I was, but I digress. And I remember conversations was floating around about moving back and, kind of doing the same thing that my mom did here, that, in Jamaica. And she said, well, they was talking about, you get this amount of money, you get this amount of money, and they was like throwing around like millions of dollars, for some strange reason. But the millions of dollars equivocated to American dollars is not the same thing, especially at that particular time. I believe that the Jamaican dollar was like 30-1, if I'm not mistaken. And so definitely, even though you may even have like a professional position, what type of amenities, resources, even what is available to you versus in this particular setting, being in America versus being there is completely different. I remember even watching a video. This woman was going off because there was, I think that the sewer water started to rise up because of a storm that was in their particular area. And she was blaming the government for basically pocketing money instead of investing into the infrastructure of that area, and as much as we would complain about those particular things here, it will never be in that as high, you know what I'm saying? You wouldn't, I don't know, I don't necessarily have to be concerned about my entire area or my neighborhood just flooding and then washing out, right? Because I know that if we paying property taxes, if we paying taxes even to the city of Chicago, I can call the city and be like, we got a problem, and somebody gonna come out and take care of it, right? But those particular safety nets, even when you go into countries like that, is not necessarily as available as they would be here. So ain't nobody gonna be going back. You know what I'm saying? Even though they have a home country, ain't nobody trying to go back. If that was the case, why would you even leave in the first place?
Sure.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So, that's so anytime that even if I hear half my folk that would be saying some craziness like that, I would have told them, I was like, you didn't want to necessarily be the bottom so that you came here in the first place. But you need to kiss the feet of every ADOS person that you see, because they the one who actually paved the way for you to get here in the first place.
Right. Booker T. Washington stopped the African Exclusion Act.
Sure did.
And subsequent generations of ADOS also helped to enact immigration reforms for Caribbeans So now you come here and you're going to be purposely injurious to the people that helped you to get here?
Yeah.
Really?
But you know, a lot of them don't. I don't think they know like that particular history. There's a lot of stuff that people just don't know, and then when you start explaining it to them, I think maybe they become a little bit more open to what we're trying to say. But I think a lot of these people really just don't know. And to be honest with you, a lot of West Africans even are really told, you know, to stay away from us, not to intermingle, like not to intermingle with us, not to interfere in our affairs when they come to America and stuff. So a lot of things are given to them from their countries of origin, you know, that are really just off base when it comes to our people.
Yeah, I mean, like I would even say personally that like a lot of this political education that I got like in the past couple of years or so, even like learning how even my family got here in the first place. And then even like when I have these conversations like with my mom about, you know, well, you know, why is ADOS owed reparations versus everybody in the diaspora? And, you know, and then I was explaining, you know, the injury here versus like the injury that would be experienced in another country and who would be responsible for that. And then I also told her, I said, well, you know, if you're really concerned about that, you better hit up CARICOM, you know what I'm saying? They might got a check for you. I'm just saying, you know, you know.
Hey,
so,
let me ask y'all guys something about CARICOM, because this came up in the dialogue with the Caribbean brother. The people who left the Caribbean nations to come here to become citizens, does CARICOM's justice claim include the people who abandoned the countries to come to the United States? It does?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
I've never even contemplated that question. That's good.
Yeah, it does. It so it follows you no matter it follows you even if you're a citizen of another country and your offspring. So CARICOM hit me up. I need a check from you and the federal government. All right. So
nice.
Good double dip. That's a good double dip right there.
That would also be the case. That would also be the case with blacks that are domiciled in Canada that are actually lineage from American slavery via Harriet Tubman and her compatriots.
Right.
Okay. So that would be, you know, as long as the paperwork is right, bam, you in.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
The criteria, if you like, all of the arguments to me is like, if you can fit the criteria, you qualify for the program. I mean, that's why we have criteria. It doesn't really matter where you live per se, if you can qualify, because the qualifications are set in a way that connects you to the damage and the harm. So, I mean, that's why the criteria is important anyway, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That is at least one parent that is of lineage that you can trace your lineage back to slavery in the United States. And also you have to have declared yourself as Black or African American for at least 12 years on the U.S. Census. I believe is also the criteria. So there's no DNA, quantum, whatever that, you know, some people try to espouse that, you know, because like another pushback, of course, is, well, you know, how can you prove, right, that you would be, you would actually be able to, you know, take advantage of this particular initiative. And, you know, one of the things that I even tell people is that it's not difficult to trace your lineage back to slavery in the United States. You can.
It's really not.
It's not hard at all. I did it in one afternoon. I promise you.
We're the easiest.
We really are.
We are the easiest group to trace.
We really are.
95% of the descendants of slavery from here are still here.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, they are, because where we gonna go? Like you said, Arthur, when they told you go back to Africa, I'm like, wait, huh?
Yeah. Well, the nationalists that I was talking to the other day, remember when we were on the corner? I said that we are the one part of the diaspora that has nowhere to go.
Right.
Every other part of the diaspora has got somewhere to go. We don't. So we had to stay here and fight. Okay.
Right.
And then the same African countries or areas of Africa, I should say, that sold us, the present day countries, they don't have dual citizenship for us. You can go to any embassy or consulate and ask that question of any African country, and they'll laugh you right out the door.
Another thing to note real quick is that many of those countries didn't have the type of government that they have now.
Nyhiem, now you do know that there are certain permissions and regulations for slavery in the Hadith. You do know that.
Well, yeah, and that's always been my beef with that. I don't want to get into a long conversation.
No, I got you.
That's not permitted in the main text. That's something that men wanted to do, right? And like that's a conversation we could definitely have. We on live right now, but that's definitely and that's not necessarily what was going on with those particular skirmishes. They were just a lot of carryover beefs, you know. And
one thing I will say, I don't usually chime in on them discussions unless it's in private, but I will say this: one of the greatest acts of Prophet Muhammad was liberating slaves, and that's why he took wives in the fashion that he did, because it was Islamic law that you could not enslave a member of Prophet Muhammad's family. So when he married a woman, it made her entire family his relative. So it liberated an entire family, literally. So I will say that.
Oh my goodness, I could have got triggered when you said all wives, but that's okay.
I mean, I'll just keep the historical content there. Everybody, I'm a believer that everybody who agrees with each other as intelligent and mature people can do whatever they want, live whatever kind of life they want. So, you know, I don't. If whatever kind of life you want to live, that's your business. That ain't my business.
Right. I didn't. I wanted to. Even though this has nothing to do with reparations, but I remember really quickly. You all remember like the whole WAP. What was it? The WAP. Roundtable that was happening, what have you?
What Cardi B talking about?
And one of I think I saw one clip where this sister was talking about, you know, she said, "Listen, I got 3 kids and I got them from sucking, and you know what?" And I was like, "What really? We're really having this conversation now." At first, I was just stuck that it was a whole roundtable, and she felt that she was liberating hoes. And these are her words, and I was just like, and you know, like I don't like to police anybody for what they do. I don't police what goes on in your private life. You know what I'm saying? And I don't necessarily think that it's a bad idea to actually have conversations like that about, you know, sex and sexuality, because like, you know, especially that can be a very you know, like sometimes like how people actually even think about those particular topics and, you know, what is real and what is not real. You know, people make up stuff. I think that those will have good conversations, especially with, you know, making sure that people are straight. But but at the same time, I do have I have a problem when, especially when I see like a bunch of like sisters like actually like sitting around talking about liberating hoes, and we're not really having serious conversations about our lives like this. You know, I mean, because like, you know, you may be liberating all the people that you want and you trying to chase that coin, like she said. But at the end of the day, you thinking about like how you even gonna pay your rent or feed your children or any of these particular things. And you know, and ADOS life oftentimes will chase you in these particular cases, especially when you are not really understanding exactly how all, you know, how you are even here in the first place. So
well, the idea, I'm gonna say, I don't like, I'm like you, I really don't like speaking on it really, but I will, and I have, and I will again. But so the idea that because you can do whatever you want with whoever you want is liberating is absolute nonsense. You understand what I'm saying? The fact that everyone knows that the most valuable things are the hard things to obtain. So if everybody can have some, that ain't no liberation. That's foolishness.
Right.
I gave an example to somebody one time, right? I gave an example to somebody one time because where we from, we wear J's, right? And I was having a conversation with some young sisters that I do a lot of mentoring. I have done in the past, and I said, "Would you let him or her, or would you let somebody let them borrow your J's?" Like, ain't nobody wearing my J's. I'm like, so you won't let nobody put their feet in your shoes, but you'll let anybody on the street go inside your body. Now you value your joy more you to value your own body and your own self. So it's about value to me. And I ain't never looked at nobody as being liberated and being like you doing your thing because anybody can get some. And because you took a couple goofies and ran their checkup, them just some goofballs. Because don't nobody want to be with you. That's why you got 3 babies and don't know where the fathers are. So like if a man want to father the child that he put inside your belly, there's something wrong with him and you. You understand? Yeah, y'all creating confusion and foolishness. Now, I'm not here to tell you what you can do in your personal life, but I'm telling you the effects of your choices in the community. Now you wonder why we got the violence that we have in the community, and we have because you know that there is a direct correlation with abandoned buildings, dilapidated buildings, and community and property value and violence with broken families. So you think doing that is liberating when you're creating more broken families.
Right.
How is it liberating?
That's
no,
fact, bro.
And destructive what you're doing. Going around having babies. What kind of sense does that make? And this is a subject that I get fired up about because I'm a husband and a father. I got 3 daughters and all of them with the same woman, and I got a son too. And I take real pride in that. And I don't play no games about family. And these brothers can tell you ever since they know me for years. That's the thing that'll break a relationship with me. If you ain't about family, me and you will have a problem sooner than later.
Well, I have no problem with what you just said. So not at all. I mean, like I said, like I don't like to police people, when it comes to what they do in their bedrooms. But at the same time, I think that what you just said is there has to be a point in time that you have to value yourself. You know what I'm saying? You have to value yourself. You have to value, even like who you choose to be with. You know what I'm saying? I'll even take like Arthur and myself, for example. Like, yes, we date, but we were friends for a year before we even started dating. And I mean, and also too, like we were very much so like had like conversations about like certain things when it comes to like relationships and what we valued and what we didn't value and all these different things. And like, we made these things like very plain and very known. And like, it once like that conversation, like, okay, I'm with you, you with me. That's it.
Right.
That's it. You know what I'm saying? None of all this other stuff, like, all out here, just, whapping. I don't get it. Right. Maybe I'm old. I don't know. I just can't. I don't.
No, we had some great conversations and stuff. And it's like she had actually disagreed with me, and I said she's crazy.
I disagree with you a lot. I disagree with you a whole lot.
How much you disagree?
That means I got a good mind. That's what that means.
Are you crazy?
No, not at all. My right mind.
That's so funny.
In my righteous mind.
So from there, we started dating.
That's how my wife is.
In my righteous mind, quit playing with me.
Look at this. Before you go, I just want to look at this. This is an example. Somebody put in the chat, sex sells. Well, so does crack. And
so does crack.
Crack, the same thing crack has done to the community. The selling of sex is causing equal or even greater damage.
Right. I so wish that like we could really maneuver our group to be more high-minded, and I understand that there was like a lot of different inferences that happened with us that, kind of like, shifted our thinking away from the things that really matter. And I really feel like, getting our people to transition to to conversations like this, like really talking about like, you know, politics, especially because politics rules everything in your life. And really talking about how important it is, you know, to really making sure that you all have a political education and also and just all those particular things. Like I just and I know that's why Be the Power is here. That's why the 13% is here. That's why Yvette and Tone is here. Like, you know, Dr. Darity and all the like this. And shout out to ADOS LA for Politics in Black. You know, they have really good conversations too. Articles. Articles of ADOS. Shout out to you all. Shout out to the content creators that's really, you know, shifting the conversation, really transitioning us from things that don't matter, like, you know, housewives and all this other stuff, and really, you know, getting us like, you know, on a higher thinking level, so that we can, you know, really focus on the stuff that matters. So shout out to y'all, and shout out to that sister. Hey sis. That's my political sister who, like I said, used to binge watch C-SPAN when we was in Springfield.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
where was y'all in Springfield?
Say, but Cynthia, don't forget. Let's not forget to deal with the local reparations thing, because it's something I want to lay out to the brothers.
Yes. Okay. I was actually like getting to that. Okay. but like we were actually this sister, she used to work for the African American Family Commission in Springfield. I would say in the early 2000s, and I was also working at the Renaissance Hotel. That's where I met a lot of the legislators, including Barack Obama, and before he was any of that. And and she, you know, schooled me on a lot about basically how, you know, the Hill worked, Parliament worked, and even how Springfield worked. So shout out to you. That was like one of my very first political educators before I actually took political science in school. Anywho, but yeah, so I think that one of the last things I wanted to get to is I wanted to talk to you all about the local reparations initiatives versus federal reparations, but I wanted to do that first by going to this clip because let me see if I can get to it. I don't know how to do any of this. Ethan, can you pull up that where point number 6 where it says nefarious actors?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Let me see. Matter of fact, can I do this? Hold on.
Yeah, for the person that said binge watch C-SPAN, that used to be the only news that I would watch. That's the real news. That's where the real stuff is happening.
Right, exactly. So I'm trying to see if I can.
That's the real news.
Yeah, that other stuff you got is garbage. The real news is happening on C-SPAN.
Right, exactly.
That's where the hearings are and the session.
I can. I think I can pull it up.
Yeah, if you can, I would appreciate it because, you know, me and StreamYard is not working together today. So if you can go ahead and pull that up, and then just like when you're ready to share your screen, just let me know.
All right, hold
on. Wow. Maybe perhaps we should do a show on the health and sex and all of that, and how it ties into community, because I saw another interesting comment. I heavily promote sex education because it totally is possible to have tons of sex with multiple partners and not have negative consequences. Sex ed is the key. I would love to do a whole show on that and how that is. I don't mean to disrespect anybody, but scientifically, it's inaccurate.
Yeah, that's a whole show actually, and I know people who actually like practice, I believe what's called polyamory, or you know, they are or like into that particular area where they, you know, basically just have that I believe it's called I forgot exactly what it's called, but it's basically, you know, people who are within this particular group already have that particular conversation that we're just with these people or what have you, or they're very upfront as far as like, how, they are operating in this particular space. Again, I don't police people what they have to do in their particular, bedrooms.
This is what we want to do. Then to just pass it off as education. Come on. I'm with everyone making their choice, but you can't say that is a part of what I have to question the quality of that education if that's the case. And I would love to have that discussion. I'm interested in hearing why someone would think that would be a healthy lifestyle, even though you have the right. I drink whiskey and eat steak, and people will say that that's not healthy, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm not here to tell somebody what they can do. I just would like to, but I wouldn't argue that eating steak and drinking whiskey is healthy either. So that's
I'm not going browbeat you on the steak stuff.
You should ask. No. My brother's beat me up on it all the time. Don't worry.
But it tastes good. It tastes good. I know because I used to eat steak.
Yeah. And then it'll tear you up on the inside. But that's another show. Anywho, did you find it, Josh? Did you find it?
Yeah, I found it on Twitter, but it just didn't look like it was good to bring up. So I was trying to just get.
Okay.
No, because the picture was so little. So,
yeah.
I actually got the real video. I'm just trying to get to the clip. So give me a second while I find it.
Okay.
That place where it's at.
Okay.
But y'all can move on. I'm gonna.
Yeah. So like one of my last questions that I had was about the nefarious actors that's happening in these particular reparations talks. We have like local initiatives that are popping up in these different cities. Asheville was one of them. They tried to do the same thing in Chicago, where they were basically just, doing they were talking about doing local equity programs and trying to call it reparations. Evanston was another one. And then we find out that it's the same organization who was supposedly fighting for reparations since 1987 that was behind a lot of these particular initiatives that was going forward. And then we found out that we just trying to get commissions so we can get a check.
Well, let me go ahead, Brother Ali.
I was going to ask, there's an article I saw about Chicago reparations for victims of police terrorism or police abuse of some African Americans, and it was supposed to be some kind of ordinance passed on behalf of African Americans in the city of Chicago. Do you guys know anything about that?
Not a lot about that. Not a lot, but I think it was. I think that was tied to. There used to be. I forgot exactly who that.
I heard of it, but I don't know any details.
Yeah, I believe that there was a police chief that was.
No, that wasn't tied to anything, Cynthia. That was standalone.
Oh, you're talking about Well, I was referring to Burgess.
Yeah, it was about a guy named was Burgess. Yep.
Yeah, he was basically taking people who were arrested, mostly Black men and also Latino men, and they would, basically beat them into confessing to stuff that they didn't do. Matter of fact, I forgot exactly where that particular area was that they were doing it in, but yeah, they were actually, and so like I believe that they were trying to come up with some type of resolution or what have you to get those people compensation.
It's the West Side.
It was in the West Side that happened, like that particular area where they were beating them. Oh yeah, Holman Square. Thank you.
Right. Some of the people have already. Some of the people have already received money. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of the people have already received money for that.
Mm-hmm. But some of the other local initiatives that's coming up is through Cobra. Yeah, let's y'all chime in on that before we wrap on up while Brother Josh is.
Hold on, I got it. Cynthia wanted me to
You found it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, go ahead and.
I forgot I had posted it on Twitter, so let me just. It's still the screen is still small, but the audio should be good. Let me just make sure to share audio.
Okay.
All right.
Where are you at? Okay.
If you examine the text of H.R. 40, it provided for 7 members of the commission. But if you look at the 2016-2017 version, it provides for 13 members. Now, the original 7 were supposed to be appointed by the president, 3 by the president, 3 by the Speaker of the House, and 1 by the President pro tempore of the Senate. I've always felt that if you had a congressional commission, then all of the members should be appointed by the Congress itself. But nevertheless, those were the original provisions. But when you go to the 2016-2017 version, you find that there's a specification for 13 members, including 6 who would be representatives of the primary advocacy groups for reparations historically. And I tried to figure out why that provision had been changed, but there's an obvious reason. The organization NCOBRA and its allies, the National Coalition on Black Reparations in America, and its allies actually rewrote the legislation between those 2 years to incorporate positions essentially for themselves. And it's interesting to note that during the same interval, the budget for the commission was increased from $8 million to $12 million. This is in the context of a proposal that assigns GS-18 level salaries to the commissioners, which is essentially in the vicinity of $200,000. And now we begin to have the appearance of impropriety, given the fact that these organizations wrote themselves into the legislation. A final point I'd like to make about this is that the vision for reparations that NCOBRA and its allies have is a flawed vision on 3 grounds. First of all, their vision of who should be eligible.
Okay, I think that's it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that was
I got the full video, but you might get a little.
That is.
Yeah, well, that last part would have been very important.
Oh
yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. What I want to do is I want to come here real quick. It's the perfect segue from the man speaking to the man who wrote the book. From Here to Equality, page in 322. But we're gonna tune in to Be the Power tomorrow, family. We're going to do a second part on HR 40, and we're going to get into what Dr. Darity was talking about in that video. We did a good breakdown of that on the first show, but we're gonna try to get a little bit deeper on this bill HR 40 and try to give some instruction on what we should be doing as reparationists. So I just want to read what Darity says about local reparations. He says, while it makes in local reparations also, if I'm reading this right, includes what colleges are doing, because this is something that Dr. Darity and Kirsten Mullins is speaking to. It says, while it makes complete sense to seek recompense from clearly identified perpetrators, when the entire political order is complicit, it is not sufficient to bill individual perpetrators. Laissez-faire or piecemeal reparations may assuage individual guilt, but cannot meet the collective national obligation. The invoice for reparations must go to the nation's government. The U.S. government, as the federal authority, bears responsibility for sanctioning, maintaining, and enabling slavery, legal segregation, and continued racial inequality. Specifically, the invoice should go directly to the U.S. Congress. So that's the answer that Dr. Darity and Kirsten Mullins gives, and we echo that sentiment. We echo that sentiment.
Yes.
Can I share a little piece? I wanted to give a good example of, because we've been seeing this piecemeal reparations going on all around the country now. and we see that some of the same people have their hands in it. And Arthur, I'm sure you can speak to it with much more insight and detail than I can. But I wanted to just take a piece to share something that happened recently that I think that I thought was a good thing, and it may be just a little way we can see how we can counter some of that. And let me just share this real quick on my screen. Hold on a second. Share this tab. This right here was a California state reparations study proposal bill. This is Assembly Bill 3121, task force study. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Task force to study and develop reparations proposal for African Americans. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details over here, and I'm sure that I'm not the most aware person when it comes to breaking down all of the backstory, and I don't want to spend too much time giving y'all the backstory, but what I do know. But what I will, I just want to show y'all, you notice how you got stuff here in red that's marked out and stuff here that's in the blue? What that means is it was problematic language in the bill. And somebody got that problematic language changed, you know? So I'm gonna just read this right here. This says this bill would establish a task force to study and develop reparations proposals for African Americans. And before it was just, okay, African Americans. Okay, well, what do we mean African Americans? Because y'all said Barack Obama's African American. So we talking about if, you know, the reparations proposal should go to him? No, we had to change. Americans who are descendants of the persons enslaved in the United States. Shout out to ADOS California. And man, I got on that. I was tuning into the live stream of the hearing on this bill. And every other person that called in, probably like 80-90% of the people that called in or more was represent ADOS somewhere in California or somewhere, you know, in the region. And also look right here, it says the bill will authorize the reimbursement of the members' expenses only to the extent an appropriation is made in the Budget Act. The bill would state that any state level, see, it ended right there. So but what they changed it said the bill would state that any state level reparations authorized under these provisions are not to be considered a replacement for any reparations enacted at the federal level. This bill repealed these provisions. All right.
She mad too.
That's little guy.
Yeah, my little right here. You can see, you know, they even changed the name of the what the task force is for. It says, see, it's a task force to study and develop reparations proposals for African Americans. Oh, they added African Americans who were descendants of persons enslaved in the United States. So I thought, you know, when I look at this, that's right. So when you look at this, you see how, this is the key right here. This is the key. It says, any state level reparations that are undertaken as a result of this chapter are not a replacement for any reparations enacted at the federal level and shall not be interpreted as such. So y'all see how, you got to understand, you can stop the share from there, but you got to understand the nefariousness of when you read HR 40 and you understand what that's trying to do and what the people who position themselves in front of that bill is trying to do with it. And then you see how some of that same stuff, and pretty much people just trying to get jobs. They don't give a damn about reparations happening necessarily. If it happens, cool. If it don't, they still getting jobs. They improving their personal position as far as a racial health gap, or you know, they improve their pockets are getting fatter. So like that's not what we're about. We're about actually this is not a game. Like I'm not spending my time with I could be running around with my son and I'm on here with y'all. I'm not doing that I'm not doing this just because, you know, I like to talk. No, I'm trying to do whatever I can to help this thing manifest, help get this message out. And so if I see something like this happen, we got to speak out against this thing. So I think this is something that every single person, you need to be called. We're gonna go into it tomorrow, but Every single person need to be, if you got any contact, you got any kind of leverage with anybody in political space, you need to be calling them, harassing them, letting them know what's going on with this, sending them a copy of these edits, getting them to say, oh, wait a minute, look, you're gonna have to make some changes to this thing, a judicial committee. You're gonna have to make some changes to this thing, and not just the federal, but the local. Anywhere you see reparations happening, somebody talking about some reparations on local and state level, you need to be calling and getting this stuff changed. This right here, what I just shared, is the blueprint of what you can use. Get that language changed, because that language will neutralize the grifters, or like my brother Dr. Lodge said, I don't even want to call them grifters. These are thieves and people doing, I mean, just devilish activity. Stop. You gotta get this stuff stopped.
Sheila Jackson Lee was on the live stream. I think that was 2 days ago.
What did?
Oh yeah, man. Go ahead.
No, I just want to say real quick. She actually said that she wanted to increase the budget from the 12 million that it is now, right? And there's more people signing on, so of course you want to increase the budget. And we're gonna go into this thing tomorrow night, family. Make sure y'all tune in.
Yo, for real.
Yeah, Cam Howard of Encobra here in Chicago, and Dr. Ron Daniels meet with Sheila Jackson Lee a minimum of once a month on this. So that's why you're seeing this evolution. I keep tabs on. Cam doesn't know it, but I keep real close tabs on his activities.
Well, if he didn't know, he gonna know now.
Got that on
low. Man, you're right. I'm sorry. Well, anyway, I do.
Go ahead.
We on your head now. Now you know.
But again, you know, if you guys have read my piece on that regarding local reparations, again, the local reparations can technically be used as a political tool to destroy the possibility of reparations being expended at the federal level by reparations opponents. In other words, remember, those federal dollars, once they come through the state, they're still designated as federal dollars, even when it gets to the end user, okay? And the government, if these things get around nationally, these locals here, local here, they can mitigate by the time we get to the federal level in seriousness payment. So these things are like dangerous in the long run when it comes to these local things. And the language that Antonio Moore put in there is beautiful, because it cut everything. That language cut everything off. It cut everything off. Okay. Now, this is not to say, and I'm gonna put this out to you today. I only shared this with Cynthia and Marlon so far, but I'm going to write a whole blog post regarding this. Is not that local reparations are off the table, but this is what needs to happen. Just like Yvette said, the first domino that needs to fall is the federal government. But check this out. Once that domino falls, part of the arrangement of reparations at the federal level is writing in legislation to enable us to go after sub-entities under the federal government, states, counties, municipalities, corporations, and so forth. The reason why is because it's what you call a big brother effect. You know, you're a little guy in high school, you loan money to a big guy, you loan him $20 and he tells you, all I got is $5 for you, go away. But then you bring your big brother who's a football player, all of a sudden he finds the $20, right? You understand what I'm saying? So in other words, it's like you use the big brother effect in order to get everything that you can get from corporations, cities, and so forth. Because what these cities are doing with this local reparation stuff is that they see reparations coming. Believe me, they see it coming, and they're trying to mitigate it as much as possible. But if your representative makes an agreement, and that agreement includes federal dollars being expended, that particular locality can opt out of being assaulted on reparations. So I have 7 phases by which reparations should be enacted from the top to the bottom. Phase 1 is a federal government, of course. And then we write legislation in that enables us to go into smaller actors. The phase 2 is U.S. states, U.S. counties, and U.S. municipalities. Phase 3 is U.S. corporations, U.S. universities, and U.S. religious entities. Phase 4 is European countries, because by the time we get to phase 4, we already have the backing of the United States government, which is, which has a lot of weight internationally. Those European countries would include Spain, France, the Netherlands, Great Britain, and Portugal. Phase 5 would include European corporations, European universities, European religious entities. Phase 6 would include African countries, Benin, Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, Republic of the Gambia, and a few other countries. And then phase 7 would include American Indian tribes and African tribes. So all of these things should be done in order. So it's just like I was telling someone else, if you're just going to a corporation naked, like T.I. and this stuff that Ice Cube is doing, you ain't nothing but a yelping chihuahua at the foot of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. They don't, as a corporate, they have no business even paying attention to you. But if you've done your homework and you've done your orderly reparations work with legislation and the guns of the United States government behind you, then they will look at you differently and deal with you differently. You got a university that somebody said that their slavery liability would come to $150 million. You know what they offered? $10 million in scholarships.
Yeah, I think that's Georgetown did that.
Right. Yeah, but if you agree to that, and this university actually owes in reparations, let's say to a general reparations fund, $150 million, hey, you just shot yourself in the foot with this local reparations, individual reparations mess. So I'm just asking Black people, we need to start thinking more methodically. We need to start thinking like in order so that we can get everything that we're entitled to. That's all I'm saying.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm definitely gonna have to wrap this up. So we have to wrap up because according to Bob ADOS, we gotta wrap it up because Vet Zone. So we just want to go ahead and Vet Zone. So we're gonna wrap this up. But before we do, I just kind of want us to all just give our final thoughts on this, and then we're gonna close on out. Let's see. Ali, you didn't talk a lot. I know you. Are you still eating tuna? You still eating your tuna steak right now?
No. I was just listening in. What's going on? I finished my stuff, man. I have some nice tuna steak with some mixed vegetables and stuff like that. It's good.
Okay, all right. I ain't mad at you.
Yeah.
You want to give your final thoughts?
Oh man, my final thoughts is love, man. I love y'all, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm so glad that we've connected, and I'm glad to be connected with people of like mind who are looking at things, in the same way that we're looking at things. And I just hope that the movement and the advocacy for reparations continues to grow. I know I'm doing my part with talking to family members. I even do like family Zooms and stuff like that with different people in my family from around the country. And, we talk about reparations. We talk about politics. We talk about congressional focus and trying to create a reparations, Congress and all of that stuff, man. I talk about you guys, listen, like I said, I love y'all, man. I'm glad that we connected, so that's really it.
Nice. Brother Josh.
Yeah. I thought this was another great discussion. Something Dr. Darity said, I can't remember where it was recent. And I think he was asked about reparations, and because some people are like, well, now is not the good time. I always hear this from a lot of people. Well, wait till after the elections, or wait till this. Now is not. Look, it's always an urgent time to talk about reparations. It's always an urgent time to do reparations. And I think this conversation is something that some people may think, why y'all always talking about reparations? Because this is the thing. It's long overdue. And I mean, do people think that this conversation should go away? Like, this is not a conversation that should go away. That's just like saying, well, why are you still treating, your infection? Why are you still treating your cancer? Why are you still eating? Why? Because it's something we have to do. It's a pressing issue. If we don't do it, we're going to fall off a cliff. And so, I appreciate y'all for doing this show. Y'all are some great minds. You have a great insight. You bring a unique perspective to the whole conversation. And y'all, I love what y'all do. I'm glad we connected. And hey, we just got to build more reparations out here. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Brother Josh. Dr. Surgical Supreme.
Oh, no, well, again, thank you, the gratitude family for having us on. Love, it's always a good build when we're building with y'all, man, and look forward to doing many more collaborations with you too, and actually doing things beyond the social media world. I'm new to the social media world. My brother Abba is literally famous. You know what I'm saying? So but I'm coming in this thing. I'm new to this. So all my work has really been in real and actually doing politics. And I want to kind of help build political soldiers around the country so they can understand what they actually need to be doing in real life politically, and the actual things they can do right now to get in politics, and going from advocacy to action, or combining advocacy with political action, so that we can be the power that we and create the change that we're looking for. So a lot of that stuff's going to come down the pipe, and it's going to come in steps. But again, thank you for having us on. We can talk all day and all night, because we just family like that. But until next time, I'll always be tuning in, and we'll see y'all when we see you.
Thank you, Brother Nyhiem.
Yeah, I echo the sentiments of my brothers before me. Thank y'all for having us on. Always a good build. We mesh well together, I think. We got a nice little flow, right? So I do want to plug our show for tomorrow. We're going to go into HR 40. I think those of you who are listening in that's not familiar with our channel should come over and check out the Be the Power channel tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to show that this HR 40 bill is not about reparations. It's just a cash grab for greedy corporate politicians, and that's it. So again, thank you, Sister Cynthia. Thank you, Brother Arthur. And until we do it again.
Exactly. Brother Arthur, I think your mic is muted. I'm trying to unmute you. Why is it not unmuting? Hold on. Unmute your mic. Unmute your mic. I don't think that he heard me. Unmute your mic. There you go. Go ahead.
Unmute my mic.
Yes, go ahead. I got you. You're talking. We can hear you now. Go ahead. Okay, you just muted. Okay. There you go.
All right. No, every time I get on, now every time I'm with these brothers in any capacity, I always learn something. Brother Nyhiem always got a book, so I got to write that down. But it's been very enlightening for me, and I really appreciate the time that we spent together on this program.
So nice that you come together. Again, thank you.
So we done?
Yeah, I'm about to wrap up. Can you? Okay, thank you. Again, thank you all so much for actually coming on to the 13%. Thank you guys for accepting our invitation. I want to do more and more, because every time that you all come on, I learn new things. Arthur is correct. Nyhiem, you always bringing up a book. I don't know how many. I know that I got at least about 2 or 3 books because you recommended them. So, and I'm trying to get through all of them, including that one that's 1,043 pages. But we ain't gonna talk about that. But anyway, again, and also to everyone who, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for the chat. Thank you to the mods. Thank you all for sharing this video. Sorry about the technical difficulties we had earlier. I think I pressed the button. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? This is my first time actually doing like production type stuff on StreamYard. So, you know, I already told the other our other real producer, like I need to train the trainer myself. So, you know, it's all good. But again, make sure you all on the way out, like this video, subscribe to the YFNA news, hit that bell every time that we go live so that you can actually get notification that we go live. Make sure that you are looking at all the links below. There are links for following the Be the Power team, and also links to their particular channel, and also how you can support them as well. I believe that we also have a link for a GoFundMe for one of our mods, ADOS North. So make sure you support that. And also, again, if you like the content here, become a Patreon. We would really do appreciate it. And also, we like to thank our our Patreons that we do have is Marsha, BestName Ever, and me, because I believe in what we do. And I know that all the work that goes into making these particular shows, bringing this particular content, is really about, you know, giving our people political education so that we can be proper advocates for what we do. So thank you all again for tuning in. You all have a good evening and good night.
Thank you.